Hello everyone! Have you ever been in a situation where you really need the grand total of a pivot table to show up in a chart, but pivot charts like this one just don't show it? If yes, then I will show you a workaround in this video, how to keep the flexibility of a pivot table, especially the changing number of categories, and also have the grand total in a chart. As an example, I will be using the Net Promoter Score chart from my last video. So the Net Promoter Score is based on evaluating responses to a single survey question. How likely are you to recommend this product to someone else? The scale of the responses is from 0 to 10. Respondents with ratings of 6 and below are grouped as detractors. Respondents with ratings of 7 or 8 are the passives, and respondents with ratings of 9 or 10 are the promoters. The Net Promoter Score is calculated as the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. Why would I need the grand total? The chart compares the Net Promoter Score of the brands of a certain company that are sold in different countries. To find out where the problems of the brands are, I need to look at the countries. For example, brand D has a problem in country A, and brand B has a problem in country B. And to find out that brand C has a problem at all, I would have to click through all the countries to find out that the problem is country C. So it would make sense to put the brand at the top and show a drill down according to country. Like this. In this chart, the dynamic title shows which brand is selected. At the top, we see the grand total, and below it, the scores per country. Now the problems can be identified at a glance. Also, brand E is not sold in every country, so the country names are dynamic. Also, if I change the target, the colors of the data labels also change depending on the target value. Let's see how to make this chart. I will start from scratch. My table shows the survey results for some brands sold in several countries. Each respondent is grouped as a promoter, passive, or detractor based on the rating. This is done using a simple Excel formula. So for example, respondent with rating of 9 gets a 1 as a promoter and nothing as passive or detractor. Let's add a pivot table. Drag country into the rows. An evaluated product brand into the filters area. For the percentage of promoters, I will need a calculated field called promoters percent, calculated as promoters divided by the sum of promoters, passives, and detractors times 100. For the percentage of detractors, I will also need a calculated field calculated as detractors divided by the sum of promoters, passives, and detractors times 100. And because I will be using a butterfly chart, I will need the detractors to be plotted on the negative part of the axis. So I will apply a minus sign. For the Net Promoter Score itself, I will also need a calculated field, and it will be calculated as the sum of the percentage of promoters and detractors, because the percentage of detractors is negative. And I will add one more calculated field as a dummy for placing the data labels in the middle of the chart. I'll just choose some number like 100. Let me make the numbers look nice with custom formatting. So for the percentage of promoters, I will remove the decimal places and possible zeros. For the percentage of detractors, I will remove the minus sign, the decimal places, and the possible zeros. And for the net promoter score, I'll just remove the decimal places. Now I'm going to write formulas for dynamic named ranges that I'm going to use in a normal chart. And the logic behind this is that formulas can fetch ranges dynamically, but I cannot use formulas directly as chart references. So for the net promoter score, I'm going to type offset of the cell D4, 0 for rows and columns because I'm staying in the same cell. And for the height, so the number of rows in the range, I will use the function count, which counts numbers in column D. And for the width 1, because I just want one column. So what the offset function is going to do is fetch a range dynamically starting from cell D4. Let's cut the formula, and under formulas, name manager, I'm going to add a new name for each column. For the net promoter score, I will type labels because I'm going to use the values of the net promoter score as data labels of the dummy series. Paste the formula. For promoters, I will type values promoters as the name. Paste the formula and change the column to B. Please note that the references are fixed and this is necessary here. For detractors, I will type values detractors as the name, add the formula, and change the column to C. And for the dummy, I'll type values dummy as the name, paste the formula, and change the column to E. I will also need the categories. Let's paste the formula and change the column to A. Now I'll add a normal chart. And under Select Data, add the series. The first will be the promoters. The series name is in cell B3. And the series values, I will type the sheet name. This is sheet 2, followed by an exclamation mark. So this part is mandatory. And then the name of the range. Values promoters. Let's edit the categories. Here I'll also type the sheet name, followed by an exclamation mark. And categories. The next series is for the detractors. The series name is in cell C3. And for series values, I'll type the sheet name, followed by an exclamation mark, and the name of the range, values detractors. Let's fix the categories. And the third series is for the dummy. Let's change the chart type to a clustered bar. Remove the grid lines. Move the category labels to the right. Change series overlap to 100% and add data labels to dummy series. Now I'll set the dummy values to 0 to make the series invisible. In the Format Data Labels pane, select Value from Cells. Type an equal sign, the sheet name, followed by an exclamation mark, and the name of the range for Net Promoter Score values. Let's do some more formatting. And add data labels to the other series. Add a dynamic title. For the dynamic title, I will link the title in the chart to cell H1, which will contain the text, Net Promoter Score, and the brand from cell B1. Select the title, and in the formula bar, type the equal sign and link it to cell H1. Let's use custom formatting for the value axis. And type the following format code. I want the positive numbers to be green, no decimal places, and the percentage only as a sign without changing the values. For this, I'm going to type the percentage sign in quotation marks. I would also like to add a smiling face. The negative numbers should be red, without decimal places, have a percentage sign that will not change the value, so again quotation marks around it, and I'll add a frowning face. Let's also fix the bounds of the axis, because I can at most have 100% or minus 100%. Let's also add the slicer for brands to the pivot table. I also want the data labels with the Net Promoter Score to be in descending order. So I'm going to sort the pivot table based on Net Promoter Score. I also want a special effect in the chart. I want the data labels with Net Promoter Scores to change color based on meeting a target. So let's add the target. The target will be in the cell B15. Open the Visual Basic Editor with the key combination Alt and F11. Select the sheet on which the target is and paste the following code. Let me walk you through this code. Option explicit at the top makes sure that the declared variables are typed correctly in the rest of the macro. The macro is started when a change on the worksheet triggers a worksheet change event. On the worksheet, I have the cell B15 with a target and a pivot table. So I can start the macro by either changing the target value or changing the pivot table using the slicer. Four variables need to be declared. My chart is the chart that I'm working with. It is going to be defined as chart 5 on sheet 2 of the active workbook. To see the name of the chart, just select it, and in the far left corner I can see that it's called chart 5. Label series is the dummy series that has the data labels. It is going to be defined as series collection 3. To see the number, Just select the series, and at the end you see the number. Promoters has 1, and Detractors have 2. Under Select Data, I can see that the number corresponds to the position of the series. So the dummy series is series 3. P is going to be an integer that I will use to loop through the points of the dummy series. And N, defined as a double, because it may be a decimal, is a target value in the cell B15. The macro is going to loop through every visible point of the dummy series, and if the caption of the data label of a point is more than or equal to the target value, then the data label will get colored green. Else it will be colored red. Next P to finalize the loop. And as a troubleshooting measure, if an error should occur during the execution of the macro, then just exit the macro. Let's test. If you would like to use this code in your own file, then please adapt the name of the sheet, the name of the chart, the number of the series, and the cell containing the target value to your own file. The macro needs to be embedded in the sheet on which the cell with the target value and the pivot table are. It doesn't matter where the chart and the slicer are. If you would like to move the chart and the slicer to a different sheet and leave the pivot table and the cell with the target value on the current sheet, then please also specify the name of the sheet on which the cell with the target value is instead of active sheet, because active sheet will be the one on which the slicer gets activated. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more contents like this.